about to watch a segment of a movie. The movie is called Doomsday Book from 2012. It's Korean, so get out your Korean dictionary.
I'm afraid that not in my vocabulary.
Don't worry, it's subtitled. This is the middle segment of a triptych. I have not seen the other two segments. They don't matter. As far as I know, this bit matters. So we're going to start straight up.
고개 돌려.
수리기사님을 요청하진 않은 걸로 알고 있습니다.
제품이 불량이거나 이상이 있거나 환불 및 교환 요청 시 전문가가 먼저 나가서 상태를 확인한다. 이게 맞아?
그렇다면 기사님은 저에게 아무런 문제가 없다는 걸 확인하셨습니다.
그걸 왜 네가 판단하나?
모든 게 정상이지 않습니까?
So, this is a Buddhist temple. It would help to literally know the intricacies of Buddhism, to understand why the monks there would think this robot is Buddha. I'm also not sure if the translation is actually bringing across the nuances enough. Do they think he is Buddha? It is Buddha. Or do they think that there's some important Buddhistic part to him?
Yeah.
And it brings up a lot of questions, which is great.
Yeah. I think I was looking at it a little bit funny because I think I've seen another version with another set of subtitles. So this version of the subtitles is new to me because I have seen the segment, but I have not seen the subtitles. This one is a little bit more direct in the questioning of what the priest wants from the technician. I agree with the technician. The priest is asking the wrong person.
The technician, all he can do is say, is this machine defective? And the interesting bit is he's saying the robot is defective, even though his scan shows he's not. It's not.
Yeah,
so
he's lying.
He can't. He is actually, the technician has short-circuited at this point. Because he can't deal with this.
Yeah.
They are pretty clear about why they asked him. What I don't get yet is why they think there's something more going on with this robot than meets the eye. You know, it could be a very good artificial intelligence robot that just slots in very well, it can mimic and emulate very well the life in the temple. Yep. So far, so good. We have no evidence so far that it's more than that. But the head priest and the priestess are saying they think it's more, and that it's absolutely clear to anyone seeing the robot. And that's We'll see. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Very strange.
I had to think.
So
Yeah.
she pretty much shows herself to be a disturbed person from the get-go. So anything after that is like, I'm expecting her to be a psycho.
She comes to him with her broken pet robots, demanding that he fix it,
saying it's her baby.
saying it's her baby, demanding where he says, "Oh, go to a pet repair center in the morning. There's no hurry." She talks about it as it's being dead. She's upset. She forces him to repair it. He makes a makeshift repair. He tells her so. And then a moment later, he sees her after she's played with it a little bit, throwing it in the garbage.
Yeah. Also, the way she left, the box got discarded, the pet got literally dragged down the corridor rather than on its feet, which were at that point actually moving.
Yeah, moving space.
Yeah, she's either very, very disturbed or she has ulterior motives. But the only thing that could be is that to find out if he actually is keeping spare parts in his place and if he's up for crazy stuff like that.
And it is, and this is not that kind of movie. This is much more simple than that. I think what's happening here is the pet, even though it's a robot, stopped working, died. You get the whole 5 steps of grief. Mm-hmm. Denial, bargaining, anger, all of it. Mm-hmm. This is her grieving process.
And then
died.
Acceptance.
Even though it's a robot, it died. Yeah. And he can't fix it. He happened to be the person who happens to have the brunt of the action. But that's what happened. It's a grieving process.
So this must happen to him all the time. People will not let up and bang his door down when he's trying to sleep. She was saying she waited for him to come home. No, he just woke up. So he was there for hours already. So she's lying. But she's just mad with grief. She is disturbed. And she does do the extreme crying. So he has to kind of like go, okay, all right, I'll let you in. I'll help you. But he's going to have to do that for hundreds of people. He's going to have to do that twice a week, 3 times a week.
And that's exactly after the day he's had with the priests.
Who's also given him a completely impossible thing to judge. He cannot judge whether or not an IA robot has become sentient and even ascended to a Buddha state. That's not his purview. All he does is fix things. He's a mechanic.
He's a mechanic.
And he says so. What I did like was that when the priestess told him, please, or asked him, she was polite enough, but she asked him to very, very vehemently to check again with the robot. They were hoping that somebody can tell them this robot is indeed the Buddha.
Or something I think what they wanted from him as a technician is to see if this robot was functioning in a different way than any other robots.
Yeah.
And the answer to that is no. It's just running as it should. But it's then becomes the question is what does this become now?
Yes.
What's the next
That's
step?
Not his purview. That's purview of legislation and psychology, assessment, human rights. IA rights eventually. Which should be then at that point, if there's that level, it should be human rights. The very first thing I thought of when they brought him in to see the place with the monks, and the robot turns its head, and you already get a sense. It was very beautifully filmed because of the suddenly it appears among these heads of monks from the back, and you suddenly go, oh, okay, there's something really different here. I thought Blade Runner. Like, literally, I was already thinking Blade Runner when they were talking robots before he actually got to the prayer room.
I have to say that I've seen this before in Japanese things, that the term robots and android is used interchangeably. To them, it appears to be the same thing. So robot or android, same thing.
Yeah, because that pet, as far as we actually saw that pet functioning, was just purely a mechanical robot. Could have had some interactivity. Like there are a couple of them on the market these days that people can play with, and the pet robot, there's a pet dinosaur out there somewhere, can sort of, has a little bit of AI and can explore the place and react to people, but that is a minimal amount of IA. But this robot in the temple is a fully fledged human interaction robot.
Yeah, and
AI. Sorry.
So, but the moment whenever they say the word robot, they mean AI / robots, Android / robot. It's the same word for them. So
yeah.
해주께서는 제가 무엇으로 보이십니까?
부처이십니다.
저것은 무엇으로 보이십니까?
그것은 시계입니다.
이것은 무엇으로 보이십니까? 이것은 제 손입니까? 시계입니까?
So I think she's actually a female monk, and she's not very high. I think the guy with the glasses who talked to the technician, he's pretty high, but she's just a regular monk. I think that's what she's.
She's more than the regular monks that were sitting down. So
just because she's young. I think she's just being
possibly young and passionate, and who knows how the hierarchy works there.
Yeah, but that's what I understand of it. That she's anyway. She comes to talk to the robots about the nature of life, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And another little note is that I'd have to look it up, but they call him In Young, and I do believe that now In is a person and Young is I've seen that word in connection with dolls. So his name is something of that sort. I'd have to see if that's the actual translation, but that's what the vibe gives me. So his name is not an actual name, it is a construct, I think. Like him, he is a construct.
Okay, so my brain just went kaplooey. What if? Not even what if. So you're putting an android with a good IA system, possibly one of the most advanced types of android, in the Buddhist temple to what? I don't know. They didn't say. But he's there amongst the monks.
Yeah, I think I remember from the other translation, and maybe they say it later, I'm not sure, he was there to hand out information and information.
Didn't they say that he was supposed to be cleaning? No,
No,
the
they
monks
both are
themselves
supposed to be
clean.
cleaning.
Yeah.
All these menial tasks that you would give a robot in a regular household, it are the things that the monks are supposed to be doing. He is supposed to give out leaflets and information. He's sort of a weird thing to have there anyway. But
Might have been like their administrative help.
Yeah.
But he's slotted into Monk's life. And okay, so my brainwave here was with the amount of computing power that you need for an AI, the road to enlightenment is, if this is Buddhism or Zen Buddhism, is expedited by doing things like being a monk and meditation and finding the road of the middle and separating yourself from desire. Let's just say that an AI, good AI android could do that, I don't know, 1,000,000 times faster than a human.
Yeah.
So maybe he is Buddha.
Yeah, yes, the fact that he's unencumbered by the human perception because he's not human, and that's what he explains to her with the talk of the clock. She asks, she's in turmoil, and he says, "Well, you should think of me as a clock. I'm the same."
I'm a thing, yeah.
But all things are in essentially a clock. Our bodies are clockworks that work that way.
We're linear. We have a timer that runs out.
And all that's that pains us is that we perceive it to be more or different than that. And that's what he was saying to her. She was worried that by setting certain events in motion, like having him checked and stuff like that, bad things will happen. And he says it doesn't matter. I think
it doesn't matter in Buddhistic terms, as far as I understand them, is that to desire gets you off the road of the middle and will impede your way to enlightenment. She is experienced, but also but showing her desires, which is to have him be recognized as Buddha, and her because she has that wish. She has a need, and that need is going to impede her from getting to enlightenment, because then she's focused on the wrong thing, namely trying to change what is. And he's saying, this is what is. Here's my arm. Look at my arm. It's just a thing that counts, just like the clock. What was interesting, the next scene though, is his arm is back on himself, so he can. I'm just gonna go with he. That's probably wrong, but the robot can dismantle and remantle himself.
Yeah. I don't know if you noticed that because it was pretty dark, but when she walks into the robot's alcove, his little cell thing, he was in pieces on the wall. His legs were detached, sitting to the side. I don't know if you could see that, but
no, I couldn't understand why he was stuck to the wall and why he was coming down.
Because his torso and the head and the arms were together, but the legs were apart. And I think he's probably on his loading station, getting electricity. So that's why he's there. So that's
yeah. And then there's a question of, okay, what is that? Well, humans need to sleep, humans need to eat, so we also have reloading stations.
Yeah, and because I wouldn't know to recognize it when you see it, but I think if you were more familiar with Korean Buddhist temples, you would be able to see that this guy is in a sleeper cell, in a regular monk cell, except that it's devoid of cots and all the other things that humans need, because he's not human. So he has his loading station, but I think it's probably meant to be a monk's cell. So hers will look the same, except that she's not.
Yeah, hers will have a bed or a futon in it and the barest of necessities, because attaching yourself to objects is also desire, and therefore not on the road of enlightenment.
Yeah.
There won't be a lot of it. It'll be minimalist there
Yeah,
in everybody's cell.
but a human needs a futon, and a robot android needs a loading station.
No.
Which he has.
나는 어디서 나고 어디로 가는 겁니까? 어디서 나서 어디로 가는 겁니까? 어디로 가는 겁니까? 나는 무엇입니까? 나는 무엇입니까? 나는 무엇입니까? 어디서 나고 어디로 가는 겁니까? 나는 무엇입니까? 나는 무엇입니까? 나는 무엇입니까? 어디서 나고 어디로 가는 겁니까?
This is the robot that was for the pamphlets and information, so I remember that wrong. So that's
But it is not our AI that is.
Nope.
Yeah.
This is another one that's being defended by the head monk. He also doesn't want this one to go, and for the same reason, this one is not that far yet. But who is not to say that it won't?
He's not. That's not his decision.
Exactly.
The question at this point, is it a life form or is it not a life form? If it slots into the life of the temple, maybe it is a life form. And when it's a life form, you don't mess with it if you're a Buddhist.
Yep.
So, apart from all the screaming and the shouting, there is an existential question here that has not been asked, which is something what it is because it is that, or is something what it is because we believe it is that?
Mm-hmm.
And you've got the RU company believes that this is by head of the company, that having these robots around functioning on this level is a threat to all of humanity. Whereas the monks believe that it is literally the coming of the Buddha and the reaching of the Buddha state by an individual, and that will elevate all of them by being in the presence of this happening. And then we have the technician, who is just experience. He's basically us. He's only seeing everything happen, hearing all the arguments, and just concluding this is happening.
Yep. Yeah, because this is obviously a religious story, a Buddhist religious story, and one of the few elements that I know about Buddhism versus Zen Buddhism and all that, the actual straight up Buddhism, what they have here is that there is a point in which you, when you become enlightened, but you decide to stick around for other people to help them to become enlightened. It's called Bodhisattva, and that is what the robot is, of course. Yeah. But he realizes pretty quickly, once these other people come in, when the company comes in with the guns and stuff, is that the fact that he is there in his Bodhisattva state is always transient. It is never, you can't do it for very long, and it came to an end, and that's why he left. And that, I think that's what the that interpretation is. He cannot be actually enlightened and stay, not in a long term. He can stay a little bit and he tried to help her, he tried to help the technician as well, everybody around him. They tried to, but once he's enlightened, he has to go.
Yeah, one way or another. They were saying the RU company wants him dead, and he gave them the talk to the hand, literally, and then turned around and switched himself off.
Yeah.
The reaction from everyone around sounds like, oh, this is not a function that type of robot should be able to do. So we can only get that from the reaction. But if that's so, then he is, at least his capabilities of the control over his body, which should also be part of Buddhistic monks training, is far advanced above what they were expecting him to be able to do.
The question is, of course, I mean, in a Western sense, is he sentient? Does he require human rights? I mean, is he human enough for human rights? And what are human rights? But in a Oriental sense, in the Bodhisattva, and then moving on sense, yeah, I do believe the way that it should go is that the Bodhisattva will decide at their own point when to do that and switch themselves off in much the same way that he accepts human body. That's the religious part of that, but the
reaction of the monks, that they give him all the space to do what he needs to do, and then they not only give him the space but hold the space once he's done it. And that sounds like that for them this is ticking an enormous box. Everything that's happened so far still keeps confirming that he has reached, and they call it nirvana here, or he's going to go to nirvana, but he's reached enlightenment. And to be in the presence of an enlightened creature or person is clearly something that they respect highly, wish to be close to, and will give all the time and the space to experience it. Now our technician is experiencing this as well, because he's right there. He's the only one who can go to the robot, not in a non-threatening way, and check what's happening. And his reaction of, oh, it's actually shut itself down. Maybe he's getting some enlightenment.
Yeah, and that's
Just from being there,
Yeah.
I don't know how the brownie points work, but I would say so, especially since he wasn't on anybody's side, and he was not aggressive.
Yeah, I think earlier the robots spoke, and he said, and when you said that the fact that he's a robot makes him his path to enlightenment, to this shedding of emotions and stuff like that.
His computing power is far above what a human can do.
But what he said was no, yes and no.
Yes, I noticed that.
As fully enlightened, and we forget. And he says, I am in a position for not to have forgotten that because of my nature of being a robot. I did not forget that because it's not in my nature to forget that. And you have. And then when the shit hits the fan, he sort of says, I'm actually impeding you now. I need to go.
Yeah, I took it differently. I took it as he's saying humans have access to this enlightenment, and him arriving there had to climb that road to the enlightenment that he sees that the humans have, which was an interesting thing. Instead of coming from the same point and going upwards beyond them, he actually saying, "I am now equal." And because he's not like everybody else, he is perceived by us as more enlightened.
But that's exactly what the company guy is afraid of, that these constructs are going to become equal and surpass human beings and usurp them. That's why
that last thing, it's the surpassing and the usurping is what he's afraid of.
Yeah.
It barely happened. There you only have this one. Every other robot we've seen so far is far below the functioning of a human being. Even that little administrative robot in the temple.
Yeah.
There's nothing. There's a little dancing a spider at our technician's place, and that's all it does.
Yeah.
So this guy is jumping the gun.
Yeah, he's jumping the gun way, way, way much. He's very
and he believes that he's in the right. I mean, he did a lot of shouting and a lot of spouting of philosophy and things. He gets in with the fully operational electrical wheelchair, and then eventually gets out of the wheelchair. Now that's, it's very normal that people need to use wheelchairs for longer distances and can't stand up for very long. So it doesn't mean that they can't actually walk, but it does come across as rather he's using the technology for his advantage, but the moment he wants to make a case for let's destroy all the technology because it's going to threaten us, he's actually getting out of the technology and uses the cane to stand up. He might have realized at that point the image that he's portraying wasn't really pushing the point forward.
Yeah. It's like saying all this modern culture is keeping us back and is a bad idea, and then realize that if you throw out the modern culture, you don't get any nice heating or food.
He would be done very quickly because he can't actually walk any distances. So what's he gonna do? Ask somebody to drag him around on the... Well, he's rich enough. So somebody can probably bicycle him around or something, and with a rickshaw or something. The other thing is they brought violence into what is a holy space. You've got the big Buddha statue. You're in the main temple area. One does not do that in any religious area. You do not bring guns. And when the robot retaliated, it was just to push them away.
Yeah, he did
I
not.
thought for a moment that he was shooting, but he wasn't. He just pushed these two gunmen to the ground, and they basically stayed down, so he probably knocked them out.
So that's the end of this segment anyway.
the arm where he flexes his hand before he opens the door at the first scene when he's at his home, I was immediately like, Luke Skywalker. That's so not a, you know. And but the interesting thing is he actually scavenges what looks like to be a very precious chip from his own hand to revive the dog, or to fix the dog, cure the dog effectively, the dog robot. That's interesting. Is he going to go to the main robotics arm prosthetic department of health and say, "Oh, oops, I lost my. Can you get me another one?" Because he clearly couldn't get one for the pet.
It's probably going to be very expensive. That's the thing. It's expense.
But he is sacrificing functionality of his own body to save a dog.
Robot dog.
A robot dog. What is it?
Yep, and that's
now his dog, isn't it?
It's now his dog, and what is the difference between a robot dog and a dog in a I mean, what are sold and what is valuable, all these things, you know.
And wouldn't you give like a piece of your skin or hair or anything that you could give to your pet to revive it or fix it? I mean, it wasn't entirely dead. I was actually surprised that it was walking around, and because he said the pet would only last a few hours on that makeshift fix that he did, and this was clearly at least another 24 hours later. So yeah, the even the pet is quite more hardy than probably designed.
Yeah. So, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Oh my goodness. Well, that was a head spinner. I like it. I feel the need to read up on Buddhism now.
I liked it because it was a sci-fi conundrum. These sci-fi things are very often a question of we have this and we have humans, and then how it goes together. And it was the Buddhist version of it, and not the usual Western stuff. I mean, we've seen the Bladerunner, and Bladerunner is very, very good. It's in the same idea, but this is another take on it, and I like that really a lot.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about that there isn't there aren't 3 words for robot there. It's a robot, AI, android, it's all the same word. Probably, as far as we know at this point. That means there's also less of a distinction between the mechanical only, the mimicking only, versus the actual reaction to and new responses to situations, which should be AI. Again, I would love to look up the specific definitions of artificial intelligence. It was really well thought out. It was beautifully put together. I love that it was actually set at a Buddhist temple rather than in normal life and a school situation or a work situation or something like that. I mean, that would have been absolutely fascinating as well. But the fact that they actually juxtapose the absolute newest of technology with the absolute minimalist, a very old religion, basics. Maybe, when you go around, you end up at the same point. You go totally. We've seen that in a lot of sci-fi, is that they actually go very minimalist, like Star Trek. Is like, you've got so much technology, and we have it right now. Where's my phone? You got a phone. This only by itself is like 10 things I don't need to own anymore. And I have far more I mean, I've got a computer in my pocket. I've access to the worldwide knowledge base. I don't need I have a library in my pocket. That's insane. I have the encyclopedia in my pocket. This is if you go far enough with technology, you end up with the same minimalist. We don't need all that stuff. We
Yeah.
just need the right things. And I don't know if Buddhism actually talks about the right things. I would assume that it is appropriate to still have something to sleep on, although there might be Buddhists and Stoics that basically say no, just sleep on the floor. But then you have a floor.
Then you have a floor.
And eventually you eliminate the floor and you say, okay, we need to be in a cave. But then you have a cave. You still have something.
I do know that at least Korean and Korean culture does allow for not creature comfort, but if you need something like medically need or something, that actually is allowed in that sense. The Western especially North European religions really go for austerity to the point of suffering, and I do understand that these
Stoicism, yeah. And Stoicism comes from the Greek philosophies, and
yeah,
not
and
especially
not from the Oriental ones. So I don't
not
think
especially now.
so. A futon where needed is fine. Should be fine. They did have pillows sitting for kneeling in the main place. And when I went to Korea, I went to a couple of these temples, not as fancy as this one, but they're very nice ones. And the floors for walking on, because you walk on them without shoes on, so you need a nice floor, nice wooden floor. And then when you sit down, you can get a little pillow thingy to sit on, just like this here.
So, that's minimalist basics, but you do need them,
but not austerity to the Western point of view, Western type of religious austerity. No. So, yeah.
Self-abnegation. It's also shown in the wheelchair that the head of the RU company comes in with. He also brings along like almost an army of people who never even get a line.
Yeah.
After that, they're just furniture. That kind of like the monks in this is that it just says there are monks, but they don't get lines or anything. It's not that kind of thing. It's a lot of people experiencing things that only a few people know how even to argue about them, and they have agendas.
Yeah.
The head of sorry.
I think that's actually more of a film shorthand, just to make sure that on the monk side, the head monk talks and the lady monk talks.
Yeah, and the female monk talks.
Otherwise, you get too many voices that you don't know where they come from. So they try to keep the amount of voices small, but the groups large, because they are large groups. They are opposing large groups.
Another theme that is in this is the technician, because he is the one through line. He is experiencing all of these scenes, and what it kind of is saying that is that yes, you can be simply a technician. You can. He doesn't even have a name. He's technician. So nobody finds him interesting. It's like having the your plumbing done or something like that. Well, it's a person, and at every turn that a person goes somewhere, you experience things, and he's experiencing stuff. He's just taking it in around him. Like you can go into somebody's home and you can come out having had an enormous experience because of these people are different than you've experienced before, or they have treated you wonderfully or badly, or just being around, just going around your normal day. And that's really what this is showing, is he has grown a lot. He's gone from why would I possibly want a robot in my apartment, to now he's got a dancing spider, and now he has a pet that he is actually sacrificing bits of his own body for.
Yeah, and moving forward, because he's a young man who is in the robot industry, he can maybe do something in the future with this idea. It needs to percolate. It is a guy that needs time to percolate his ideas. We've seen him percolate a couple of times, but he is already questioning whether or not just switching off a robot that is not exactly the same as any other robot is the right course to do, and that's
He jumped in front of the guns.
He jumped in front of the guns
to keep that from happening.
Yeah.
There was also the news bulletin about people are much more interested to actually have a relationship with a robot or an AI, and it's threatening clearly the making of children. That's what it's threatening. Technically, that shouldn't be the case, because if you have equally divided people are matching up with robots, they can still go have children, and you still have the same amount of women in the world who can bear children.
And a serious question is of how many children we should be having in the future anyway. So
yes, but it does it does hook up with the reality of grayification of the Western society, and Japan and several other societies are also having grayification, which means the baby boomers are getting old, and the people after that, the baby boomers didn't have as many children as they were the generation of many children, and the generations after that not having especially many children either. Some people are okay with one kid. Well, that's two people creating one child. There's plenty of people who are having no children. There's a lot of singles in the world, more than they ever have been, and they're expecting 40% of the people to in the future, 40% to be singles. So we no longer have a society like in the 40s, 50s, and 60s where everybody pairs up and has kids as a matter of course.
Yeah, and that is also for a practical reason. We have to not have so many kids, because the Earth is not as big. It's not infinitely big. So going for another type of lifestyle with an AI partner and no kids, that they put it on the news in the film as a doom and gloom thing. It isn't. It is it is just a possible permutation of how to have a meaningful life in future.
It's not only possible, it's inevitable.
Yeah.
People are we're seeing it happening. There are fewer not, there's no scarcity of children, clearly.
No scarcity of people. Yeah.
But what they are afraid of is that there will be the next generation, and we're in that situation. The next generation is not going to be large enough amount of people to actually provide for the children and the elderly, which is what the adults do. And I would say they're wrong about that in that society, because you have all these AIs. They can do the providing. They can create the food. They can. There's going to be a point where there's no need for income and stuff. There's going to be enough, which is where you get with Star Trek. You get to that utopian place. This, by the way, is also from his home. Is the one place where we can see that this is in the future. This is not a what if we had robots of this size. This is literally like, okay, this should be 50 years, 100 years.
No, it's not 50 years, because they talk about that older model robot.
Oh yeah, actually, past 2017, yeah.
So maybe that's 10 years old or something like that.
Yeah. I forgot about that. Mm-hmm. So it's
the film is from 2012, so 2017 is 5 years in their future. So I think probably 15 years in their future, in from 2012.
15, 20 years, yeah.
It's not that far into the future, but like most sci-fi things, they think that our development is going to go faster than it will.
Oh, and we're not having those robots. That's 10 years from now.
Of sci-fi is to actually put out a question way before it comes up. So this question of because this movie asks it, and Blade Runner asks it, what is the nature of an artificial intelligence? What would they do? Star Trek asks it a lot, in especially
the Orville has a big storyline on it.
Yeah, but the Next Generation asks us like 5 times, and even old Star Trek asks us a couple of times.
Yeah.
But because it's what sci-fi needs to do is come up with these questions way before they become important, and then we have to go through all the permutations of what the answer could be, and then see what we can do once we actually get to this point, which will be many, many years from now, because they're not anywhere near to anything that smart enough that it's going to do something on its own. It's making IA is making some art, and imaginative art, but bad art. So we're not that far that, and it can't even write a story yet. It can read. When you try to write a story of more than 20 pages, it's just logic goes out the window. So no, they're not there yet. No.
So,
But
final thoughts?
The final thoughts is I loved it. It's wonderful.
It was very interesting. It was very art house, and I appreciate the pacing of it, and that they didn't just do blip 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 and show us bits, but they actually came back to each storyline and finished it properly. And the last bit with the dog, come on. It's just too bad they didn't kind of, I mean, it would have been too schmaltzy to have him actually cuddle the dog, but that was kind of implied that he's that's his start to actually interacting with people, with persons, with creatures, rather than just going in and out of doors and fixing equipment.
Yeah.
So hopefully he has a little bit more of a life coming towards him.
No. And final thoughts on this movie is that the other two segments, I know I haven't seen them, but they are horror. So if you're gonna watch this movie and you just want to watch this segment, remember the other two are horror. So this review is only about this viewing is only about that segment and nothing else.
All right. Well, that's my opinion.
And my opinion, and
we're sticking to it.